Okay, let's see. Hello, everyone. It looks like our sound's coming through pretty good. I like the new microphone anyway. Hello, I am Lonnie.
I'm Mark.
And this is Untitled Nerd Network's comic book Malarkey.
Back from the dead. And this time it's live. It's not pre-recorded.
Yeah, and I feel like this makes it easier to do it. I think I like being live. I like being able to interact with everybody. I've just about got to where I don't even do
Pre-recorded stuff anymore.
Yeah, just because nobody ever watches it. Seriously, nobody. Like you could do a 2-hour video live, do a 2-hour video of the exact same thing, put it on pre-recorded at the exact same time of day, and the live video is going to get 300% more views. It's just the way Facebook works.
Well, there you go.
People don't like watching anything longer than 3 minutes pre-recorded. It's just the way it goes. But anyway, this is, as you can tell by the video description and the title and all that other good stuff, this is strictly comic books. Comic books and comic book related news, which is pretty much comic books, movies.
Are we going to even talk about the Sony thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I did some math and stuff the other night. It's kind of interesting.
Hey, that sounds good. But the headliner, the major headliner that we're going to talk about tonight is this nice little thing. You may have heard of it. House of X, Powers of X, which is technically House of 10 and Powers of 10. And they do explain that a little bit already.
Well, because that twist that you were talking about, which we'll get to, explains why it's 10.
That's probably the biggest spoiler.
That was really, I had to agree with you. That, you mentioning that there was this really big plot twist in the series is what made me want to pick it up and read it.
Yeah. It's not just like a rinky-dink little plot twist that, Marvel has a really bad habit of saying, "Oh, this is going to change everything." Like Civil War. You remember when Civil War came out? This is going to change everything. How long was it before everybody was friends again? 6 months?
Pretty much, yeah. Within the year.
I mean, did like Civil War 2, that name an event from the last, name an event since the year 2000 that has truly affected the Marvel 616 universe to the point where it's still feeling the ripples. The only thing I can think of is the Sentinels destroying Genosha,
which this kind of sort of ties into.
Yeah.
But then there's
the House of M thing.
House of M and the No More Mutants thing, but they, they went down to where there was only like 99 mutants left or something like that. But then it
almost feels like they're back to
hope. It sounds like they're back to being everywhere.
It's only been like maybe 3 years of comic book time. Oh, Jennifer's saying she can't hear us. That sucks because we're like showing up.
Hear us. Testing 1, 2.
Can you hear us any better now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Anything better?
Can you hear me now?
Hold on. No, for real. I'm gonna turn it up. Jennifer's saying she can't hear us. That sucks because we're like showing up. Hear us. Testing 1, 2. Can you hear us any better now? Can you hear me now? No, we're actually. I don't know. Maybe turn the volume up or something. I can hear us.
We can hear us.
It might not be perfect. We might be echoing a little bit.
Have you tried turning it off and on? No.
I'll tell you what. Let's do something. Let's do something a little different. Let's do what we used to do.
Oh, you're gonna bring the microphone over here?
Yeah, we're gonna use basically that's not the microphone that we were using. So
you're gonna switch to this microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Wednesday. So, okay. Yeah, it's still down.
Put it right there.
Hello.
Should be able to hear us a little bit better.
Okay. Cool. Can hear us now. I don't know if it'll be as clear or whatever, but yeah. So okay. So House of X. Here's how House of X starts. House of X. It basically the reading order so far is House of X1, Powers of X1, House of X2, Powers of X2, Powers of X3. Yeah. Right. So it's a little weird. But what they are doing, okay, House of X focuses like on current times. Powers of X focuses on everything else.
Now, I kind of want to go into, because this is again something that I noticed and I mentioned to you before we started filming. As of right now, neither one of these books ties into anything that is happening in the current Marvel timeline.
Oh, they do a little bit. Remember in House of X #1, they do run into the Fantastic Four.
Right, but like there's like nowhere in the X-Men books has Krakoa come back. Like I don't know where that came from. Like all of a sudden, poof, he's back.
Yeah.
And
okay, yeah. We'll get to that. There's some explaining to do here.
Oh, by the way, spoilers if you haven't read this, or because we're only up to Powers of X2, so
yeah,
Powers
we are current.
So we are current. So if you have not read this series yet, warning, spoilers.
Yeah, and like I got the feeling like we don't have a lot of comic book readers. I think we have a lot of people who follow our channel who don't read the comic books actively, but they would be interested in hearing what's going on in the comic book world.
And that's why we're here.
Yep. So what you've got is Xavier's around, but he never takes off his helmet.
Right.
And
well, we also have to preface that this is Xavier Reborn, because when they started... Was it X-Men Red? X-Men Blue?
Astonishing X-Men.
Astonishing X-Men. It's Xavier's mind in Phantom X's body.
Yeah.
So, that right there needs to be prefaced. It's not... And he's only calling himself X now.
Yeah.
Not Professor Xavier or anything. It's just X.
There's this... See, I was reading all kinds of fan theories and stuff right after House of X came out. And they were thinking that since you've basically got Jean Grey in her classic 70s golden green Marvel Girl outfit, you got a lot of this stuff going on, and there were these fan theories going around that Krakoa had come back and captured the X-Men or something, or maybe Krakoa had created its own X-Men from what he knew. And so that's why you've got the old style Jean Grey and all this. This was an old fan theory that is very clearly not happening.
It's yeah.
But that was the running theory for about 2 weeks, and it didn't work out that way. Basically, like Krakoa had started producing these flowers that they created this miracle drug out of that.
Will allow humans to live 5 years longer than their normal lifespan.
It was a few years.
It extends the normal human lifespan by 5 years.
It cures an insane amount of disease, cancer, and stuff like that.
And this is all because they're starting to see the shift between mutant kind becoming the predominant species on the planet.
Yeah, and Xavier and Magneto are kind of getting ahead of the curve before everybody...
Before the humans start to come and attack them, look, we're going to do things for you guys.
Yeah. But Magneto does make it a point, He's like, hey, we're your gods.
That was one of the best lines in the whole thing. Man.
I was like, good for you, dude. Because I'll go ahead and tell you, man, it's like the older I get, the more I realize Magneto is right.
Yeah. So the problem, the major problem that I have with Magneto is if you take the classic Magneto origin, his family was captured by the Nazis and served in a prison camp and all this fun stuff.
Yeah.
He has a very twisted mentality that mirrors the Nazi mentality. The Nazi mentality was that the white people are the master race.
Yep.
Magneto's mentality is that mutants are the master race. So it's kind of sort of, that whole nature versus nurture thing. Mm-hmm. His nurturing, the way he was nurtured, developed his worldview, and that's what he is. So he's basically a mutant Nazi. So he became what he hated.
And here's the thing: it's like Magneto, once he gets that power, he tends to be corrupted by it. Same thing with Xavier. Xavier, from a little bit after the time that he became, he came out as a mutant on live TV, 18 years ago, up until the time that he died, I mean, you almost agreed with Cyclops when he killed him. Because Xavier was really getting out of hand, and he had kind of gotten away from the X-Men, what they were all about, and
the dream.
Yeah, it was like Xavier, he wasn't about it anymore. And so, I mean, things just, I don't know. I think once either of those guys got a little bit of power, it tended to go to their head. And so, you've got that going on, and you don't really know what's going on. People are throwing theories around like crazy. And then in I believe it's Powers of X #1. I'll have to look back, because I'll go ahead and tell you, after House of X #2, I barely remember anything that happened in Powers of X.
See, that's the thing. That's one of the problems I have with this series. It's very back and forth. So there's the stuff that's going on 100 years in the future, then there's the stuff that's going on 1,000 years in the future, and then there's the stuff that's going on present day. And then there's all the stuff that's going on with Moria.
Yeah.
Which, that, again, I have to agree with you, is the biggest plot twist ever. And I think it's weird, too, because there's just so many things that kind of sort of rewrites of a whole bunch of stuff, because if up until now, she's never been identified as a mutant.
Yeah.
Cerebro's never detected her as a mutant. Xavier's never been able to detect her as a mutant. And that's another problem I have with this. They also make Xavier a telekinetic in this book, too. Xavier is not a telekinetic. He's a telepath.
Maybe Phantom X maybe that's a side effect.
Maybe. I don't know what Phantom X's powers
But here's the thing. At the same time, though, think about how Moira had the legacy virus.
Right, she was the only human who had the legacy virus.
But now it makes sense. She wasn't the only human, technically.
Okay, I can get behind that. That works. But did they mention that in one of her timelines, though? Because they do the branch of all of her timelines, is that in one of her timelines.
They didn't really do that until House of X #2, but yeah, I don't know.
Hang on, I want to go look at it.
There's a lot to digest.
There's a ton to digest.
Powers of X #2, basically what it does is it introduces a future X-Men, 1,000 years from now, the Ascension. Basically what they're talking about is basically where some of the people welcome the Phalanx down to devour Earth, basically. And,
right.
I mean, it gets pretty dark. You've got Nimrod, you've got the Sentinels, Wolverine's still alive 1,000 years from now. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, of course.
Which kind of throws me off because...
Let me see your copy of Powers 2, because I can't read it on the digital. I want to look at the timeline there and see if
Powers 2?
Yeah. The one where it puts the timeline at the end.
I think this is it. Be careful with it, Mark.
I will. Chill.
But yeah, I mean... there's so much stuff going on, and it's really hard to digest, but it all comes together in House of X #2. And we kind of figure out, it shows what you are thinking. Now, here's the thing. I saw a bunch of comic book reviewers that I, watch regularly who were not getting House of X #2 at all. They were thinking that's in there, isn't it?
It's
floating around here somewhere.
I'm on, I don't know, hang on a second. The Lives of Moria Attack. I'm just trying to, I can't, when I zoom in on it, I can't tell what the thing is. It's not in there. It's in, what am I reading here?
Oh, well, I refuse to, I think it's House of X #2. I refuse to open it up.
Okay.
I won't even open it up, just because I'm probably going to get it graded at some point.
Okay.
Oh,
I understand.
Yeah, I've actually got the digital of it. But yeah, so what happens in House of X #2 is they start out in Moira's childhood, and the way they present it, it does seem like it almost looks like she's born in like the 1800s or something, like the first page of the book. Everything's old timey, but realistically, it's probably back in like the 1950s
Congestive
or 60s.
heart failure, plane crash, lab fire, sentinel attack.
I think her regular 616 life that we know is either life 3 or 4.
Dies after discovering master mold facility. Dies in a failed prison escape. Life, I think 9 is the one that goes into the future apocalypse thing where she's in love with Apocalypse.
No, that's number 8. Number 9 is the one where they kill her at the end. Specifically for, to discover when Nimrod went on.
Right. This is it's just really complicated. So none of these mention her having the legacy virus.
Got Tasha TK says, "Hey Mark, here for
Tasha.
For a bit, but I'm a bit late. What have I missed?" No, we're just kind of discussing the beginnings. You haven't really missed the real meat and potatoes of the whole thing yet.
We're trying to suss out. So basically, the basics of it is that Moria is a mutant apparently, who when she dies reincarnates back at the beginning of her lifetime.
Yeah, this isn't in the future. This isn't in another time. She literally is born, and let's say for the sake of argument, born in 1980. She lives her life, dies in 2062 or whatever.
And is reborn in 1980.
Reincarnated back in 1980 with the knowledge of everything that happened in her previous lives. And this happens over and over and over. And she is told, she finally runs into Destiny.
That was a cool scene.
That was a hell of a little interaction. Because Destiny sees the future. So she sees her future.
And she sees all of her futures.
Yeah, all of her futures. And she basically tells her, hey, you've got 10, 11 times tops. And then you're eventually going to make decisions that will kill you before your mutant power manifests. And then you'll be dead for good. And so they basically show you a few of her lives. And I thought it was funny because, now, I might not be totally right on this, which life did what. But she went through life, the first life, everything went good, she died. Second life, she wakes up in utero and is like, holy shit, what's going on? And so she's born, she's labeled a prodigy because she learns how to talk so early, she learns how to walk early, she knows all, she basically has her education. And then, she becomes college educated. She realizes, hey, there's something special about me.
The lives.
Yeah, and she's looking for, other people like her at this point. And she realizes, she sees Charles Xavier on TV when he comes out as a mutant, in front of everybody. And she's like, oh, I need to go see this guy. So she gets on a plane, flies over the ocean, and the plane crashes.
Yep.
And kills her. And so she wakes up. She's inside her mother again with all the knowledge of that, and she decides to go see him earlier this time. And, I guess that's when she meets him in 616 or whatever, the regular universe.
I don't think that's the 616 universe, though. I don't think any of these 10 timelines that we've seen are the 616 universe. I really don't.
Dude,
so effectively...
Wouldn't the mind screwing be that the 616 universe is her final life and we just don't know it yet?
That is possible. But my thing is so with her power, the way that this is working is each time she reincarnates, she creates an alternate timeline. Because she changes the events that are in that timeline. So every timeline that she's lived is an alternate timeline. So my theory is that this series is just viewing all the other alternative timelines that don't affect the 616 universe. Because
God, man,
I don't think anything that's happened in here has really touched the 616 universe.
Here's the thing. If they go through this whole thing and come to find out at the end of it, her final life is the one that we've seen this whole time, And basically, there's just a couple of little Easter eggs here and there in this series that are gonna build to other things. I'm gonna be really pissed. I want a complete revamping. It's been too long. We've got 60 years almost of X-Men history. We really need to clean house and get some new stuff going. And I love what Hickman is doing with the X-Men right now. And it'll I'm telling you, man, it'll bother the hell out of me if they're like, oh, this is going to mean as much as Civil War.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it might. Like I said, as I'm reading it, I'm just not seeing anything that connects with the Prime timeline.
Okay, now here's the thing. You don't necessarily have to. This current timeline where she meets Xavier and all that other stuff, and
right.
Magneto and them.
The whole Krakoa initiative thing.
Marvel, it's nothing new to Marvel to just be like, oh, you remember when the X-Men crossed over the Fantastic Four? Just ignore that. You remember when the X-Men fought the Avengers that time? Hell, just ignore that.
Yeah.
We're just going to retcon everything that the X-Men have done, and then we're going to tell new stories as to what did happen. It'll get kind of confusing, but I think they can pull it off.
So you're basically saying that they're going to put the X-Men in their own universe? Separate from the 616 reality?
I think that they will twist it around to where everything we're seeing in these books has happened, but they're going to retcon all of the stuff that affects... They're basically going to act like a lot of the stuff that we've read in the past, where the X-Men versus Avengers, for example,
right,
never happened.
Okay.
Just, hey, guess what? That never
Part
happened.
of that would be cool, part of that would suck, but okay.
I mean, I'm totally good with that. And, hell, it would give you an opportunity to retell a lot of that. Now, I don't know... Here's the thing. I don't trust solicitations now. Because they're already showing solicitations for series, I think Fallen Angels is one, Excalibur, which Jubilee is like one of the main 4 characters in Excalibur coming up.
Oh, I bet you're excited.
I am. X-Men, New Mutants, X-Force. There's like 5 series that they're launching in like 2... Right after these end.
Okay.
They're starting like 5 new books. And
because, we all need another X-Men #1.
Well, that's going to be it. Like, and I think they're going to do a few more, but this is the launching pad of the Hickman X-Men universe. But here's the thing. I don't trust solicitations anymore. Reason being is because they put out solicitations for 2 issues of The Walking Dead that never got released, just as a curveball. And it wouldn't surprise me a bit if Marvel took a page out of Image's playbook and was like, you know what? We're going to act like we're going to put out some new series.
But we're not?
But we're not. We're just going to keep going with Uncanny X-Men, X-23, all that stuff. I'd be really angry if they did that, because I'm really looking forward to these new series.
Jimmy Flanagan gave us a sad face. Why did we get a sad face? I'm confused.
Probably doesn't like the changes that they're doing.
Maybe. Okay.
But yeah, see you later, Tasha. Have a good rest of the
day. Hope you get feeling better. Oh man. So, if anything, it is an interesting read. I will say this much: it's been an interesting read, and if you have the ability to, definitely pick it up. It's definitely worth reading this series so far. And,
I've already got the hardcover pre-ordered.
Oh really? The hardcover trade paperback?
Yeah, it's gonna be like $35 or something. It's coming out the day before Christmas.
Oh wow. Yeah. Cool. So, we want to talk about Sony now?
Is that all we're talking about?
House of X? Is there more? Is there anything else you want to discuss about this?
There's in House of X, basically giving some of the story away. Her Moira's most recent life. They are in the future, which is technically our past. But in hers, it's like 50 years from now.
Okay.
The future. They go and they break in, and it's basically a suicide mission. And the whole point is to go in and find the info in the data, the main base, data frame, whatever, where they find out the exact moment that Nimrod becomes self-aware and goes online. and they want to, in her next life, stop that from happening. And there's like this giant freaking sentinel network floating out in space.
Between Mercury and the Sun.
Yeah. And it's like, holy crap, we got all that going on. And so they go in, they figure out some way. This is Apocalypse, he's like joined up with them. And through his technology, he keeps her in stasis for like 1,000 years. They go on this suicide mission. Wolverine takes her in there. They get the info. They basically used some kind of technology to quickly put it right in her brain, feed it directly. She gets the knowledge. She's like, yes, I know. And then she's like, you know what you got to do, Wolverine? And then he kills her instantly. And then she starts back over with the knowledge. And that supposedly is where we're starting off. Now, from what I understand, I think it's life number 6 of hers. We have 0 info.
So that may be the 616 one.
There's one life that we do not have info. And I think it's number 6. Like, they've given no info whatsoever. And I think that's going to be... There's a plot twist that is going to happen in that I think is going to make a major effect. Now, here's an interesting little thing, if I can find it in the book. In the back of all these books, there is a reading list of what order to read these books in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like House of X1, Powers of X1, House 2, Powers 3, House 3, House 4...
Powers 4.
Yeah, Powers 4, House 5, Powers 5, House 6, Powers 6. So, and they're coming out weekly, one right after the other. And here's the thing. There are 3 books in this list highlighted in red. The first one was House of X number 2 that gave that huge twist.
And then House 5 and Power 6.
Yep, House 5 and Power 6. So we have September 18th. We're going to read something really big. And then again, to end the series, of course, the ending is going to be
you're right.
else.
There is nothing for Life 6.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the 616 life.
I don't know, man. I really don't.
Because none of these other lives mention her getting the legacy virus or anything like that.
That is true. And I don't recognize a lot of stuff that happens in those.
Yeah. Like, there's the first life where she had her twins, and then Mutant Nation of Faraway, where her and Xavier establish a mutant nation. Yeah. And none of this mentions her death by the legacy virus.
Nope.
Moore dies in a failed prison escape.
What does Life 6 show?
Nothing. There's absolutely
There's
nothing.
not even a line?
There's not even a line for it. It's just Life 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's a big
gap.
old blank spot.
There's a gap, and this is 7, 8, 9, 10. So, that is kind of interesting. And then, let's see here. And then, of course, year 13 is the year of her mutant manifestation, and that's where everything kind of branches off.
Yeah.
Except for Life 10, apparently it manifested earlier because she went kind of goofy. That's where she went to Apocalypse, I think. Meets Xavier, marries Joseph McTaggart, founds him. Oh wait, hang on.
Maybe. She married Joseph McTaggart in 616.
Hold on. Proteus, Nobel Prize, recruits Xavier, genocide at Genosha, fakes her death by being a Shire Zalom, and then year 52 is House of X. And then
That's the most recent one.
Life 9 is what's going on in Powers of X.
Huh.
So, yeah,
it's kind of weird. There's some weird crap going on, y'all. But yeah, this is going to be major, and I really hope that the big swerve is, this all happened in the past, and now everything's back to normal. Because, they usually introduce a new character or something. Yeah, there's always some kind of thing that'll make this worth reading, down the road or something.
The only new characters that they've really introduced in this are the gene splices, where they've gene spliced different X-Men together, like the one that's like the splice of...
It's like the Mr. Sinister breeding program.
Yeah, because there's the kid... I like the cleric. The one that's got Nightcrawler and the red-looking Nightcrawler kid.
Yeah.
Who's a pacifist. He's kind of cool. And then the Rasputin.
Yeah.
I like her. She's kind of cool. But, we won't probably see them in mainstream after this goes away.
They'll probably end up getting the same treatment that the Future Brotherhood guy. You remember it was like the son of Xavier and Mystique.
Oh,
and then
Lord.
we had Jean Grey was Zorn, and it was like
that's really weird.
It was during the Battle of the Atom they introduced, and then they put out that hardcover that was like No More Humans or something like that.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean that was cool while it lasted, but I really hated. I can't say that I'm a really big fan of how they. I love how they started the original X-Men coming to our time, but I don't like how they finished it.
Yeah.
I feel like they just kind of threw it together just to get it out of the way.
Well, I mean, it was they were going to have to do something stupid anyway because they couldn't have sent them back with all the changes that were done to them. You couldn't have sent Beast back to his regular timeline with magic. You couldn't have sent Angel back to his regular timeline with flaming bioorganic wings.
Now, I'll give them credit on how they did all that. They captured Mimic and, tore his wings off and put him on Angel and wiped everybody's memories and, all that stuff. That was... But didn't Jean know the whole time? Or something? Like, there was some... No, once they went back, the current X-Men gained all of their younger memories. That was how it...
Which just... Yeah. But... The whole thing was just messed up.
It's probably best that we not even talk about it. It's just like...
I would have to go back and read it all again.
Retcon.
But,
we could retcon that with this. I wouldn't be worried at all. But I'll go ahead and tell you, the first 6 to 8 months that story was going on was amazing.
Yeah,
when they first popped up, because, Beast saw Cyclops as, about to start the whole mutant Armageddon, and he goes back in time and it just totally goes haywire, as typically plans do, and it was amazing because you got to see them, the past, once the sense of wonder for the original X-Men faded, it faded for me.
Yeah.
I think probably what you call jumping the shark was when Angel and X-23 kind of hooked up.
Oh, yeah.
Once that stuff started going on, and Cyclops left to be with his dad in space, and it was right about the time Shadowcat went out to be with Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, that whole little time period, I was like, ugh.
As of right now, I'm really, really fond of saying that anywhere from 1986 until 2000 was probably... they talk about the golden age and and everything of comics. Mm-hmm. I think from 1985, 86 until the year 2000.
Let's give it to about 2002,
the platinum
2003.
Age. No, because 2000 is when shit started going sideways.
Yeah, but you've got to give it to the conclusion of the Cassandra Nova storyline.
No, I'd probably stop it before that storyline.
But once Magneto started coming back, that little deal that they did, they introduced Zorn, Magneto came back, but it wasn't really Magneto.
Yeah.
About
you mean Joseph?
Grant? No, I'm talking about, it was at the very end of Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men, and things just went to crap. He started like a mutant revolution. He had all the teenagers running around saying Magneto was right. The Stepford Cuckoos, one of them became like Magneto's right-hand girl. She ended up dying of some kind of overdose. The whole thing just went to crap. It did. That whole story went to hell in a handbasket. That's Grant Morrison's M.O. is he can start a story and he is fire. But you give him 30 issues, by issue 25, it's going to be a stinker.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's like I don't like anything that Jeff Jones did with the Green Lantern Corps, like all the emotional entities and stuff, or all the emotional
the yellow
spectrum.
lanterns, the red lanterns.
Like I can accept other Lantern Corps. What I can't accept is that DC went to a lot of great lengths to say that the Guardians took all the magic out of the universe, chucked it into a star, and that's where Alan Scott's ring came from, the Star Heart. And that the Green Lantern Corps rings were purely science-based. Like, they were purely science-based. They tapped into the user's willpower, and amplified it, so on and so forth. And then Jeff Jones comes along and says, no, there's this magical entity that's at the heart of it all.
I think this past holiday season, right after I got my Kindle Fire, I got on Comixology and spent about $30 on, I think I ended up getting like Blackest Night. I got like a bunch of the Red Lantern books because it had that cat.
Oh yeah,
the Red Lantern
the little Red Lantern cat. Yeah,
like I bought his origin and like most of his first appearances and stuff on there, and I've still not read them.
He's kind of cool.
I need to sit down and read them. Like I know the origin, but I've been wanting to sit down and read it. Like I bought Hush, I bought Superman Red Sun.
So by the way, if you've bought Hush and read it, don't watch the movie that's on DC Universe, because it sucked.
Did it really?
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about renting it.
It sucked. Like, if you've read the storyline.
I haven't. Not totally. I read it through about halfway.
Okay.
To the point where I'm kind of getting the idea. I think I know that the big culprit is like Bruce's old buddy that was... Like, they're already pointing in that direction.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie totally throws that out the window.
But we are talking about, like, that's where, like, all the crazy crap's going on.
Yeah.
He's wondering who does it.
Yeah.
And he's kind of got his acquaintance or business partner or old friend or something.
It's his childhood friend, yeah.
He's kind of, like, lurking on the side.
Yeah.
And you can, they're really, like, it's not even a big reveal, I'm assuming, is coming, because I figured it out.
Like, they dropped a whole bunch of hints at it, and it's kind of like watching The Sixth Sense. If you're paying attention, you get it. If you weren't paying attention, or if you just were too immersed in the rest of the story, you missed it.
Oh, dude! When Sixth Sense came out, not to get off subject, but when Sixth Sense came out, that movie was out for about 10 days, and already people were like, "He's the ghost. He was dead the whole time," and I'm like, "Thanks." Now I have yet to see that freaking movie because
my story for that is that I'm really good at picking out plot twists like that. Like, I went and saw... Have you seen The Others? With Nicole Kidman and the two kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
About 15 minutes into that movie, I had it figured out. And at the time, I was watching it with my second wife, and I was like, I know what's going on. And she goes, no, you don't. I'm like, yeah, I do. She goes, no, you don't. And I was like, hang on a second. I went out to the lobby and got a piece of paper, and I wrote down, Nicole Kidman and the kids are dead. They're the ghosts. And I wrote it, folded it up, put it back in my pocket, went back in, and we finished watching the movie. And she goes, see, I told you didn't know what was going on, and I just handed her a piece of paper. I was like, really?
Well, those movies came out within a year or two of each other. So and that was the thing to do, I guess.
When I went to go see Sixth Sense, my mom had seen it a couple weeks before, and she's like, you're not going to get the plot twist. I was like, yes, I am. She goes, no, you're not. I walked out of the movie theater, pulled my cell phone out, called her. I was like, I hate you. Because I didn't get it. Like, I missed it completely.
How did you, I know we're like getting totally off on a tangent here.
That's okay.
What about The Village?
Oh, The Village was neat. I picked up The Village.
I
picked up alien, signs. I knew that all the water lying around with signs was going to be hazardous. But yet...
That wasn't a twist. That was just
But easy. The problem I had with signs is that there were times where the aliens were running around like in the early morning.
Yeah.
Well, is dew not hazardous or acidic to them? What the... Okay. Speaking of movies, though, good segue into Sony.
Sony, God.
So I did some research. So they pretty much made this announcement on the 20th that Sony is breaking away from Disney and Marvel. And they're going to keep Spider-Man, and they're going to do their own little Spider-Man movies without having him tied to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I have strong thoughts on this.
Which is, I think they're going to fail again. It's like I was telling a friend of mine earlier. He was like, if they do this, if they do that, they're going to be able to make a good Spider-Man movie. And I was like, have they shown any evidence of being able to do that in the past?
On their own?
They haven't. But here's the worst part. So it was announced on the 20th, right? On the 21st... So on the 21st, Sony's stock was $57.04 a share. Okay, that was at the close of business on Wednesday, the 21st. The close of business on Friday, it was $53.86 a share, which is a drop of $3.18 or 5.5%.
Well, that's not horrible. But
It's not horrible until you take into account that Citibank is their primary shareholder. Citibank holds 117 million shares, which works out to be roughly $374 million.
Okay.
When you take into account that there are currently 1,263,764,000 shares of Sony stock out that have been issued.
Okay.
That's $4 billion lost in 3 days. And they've still not recovered. It's only come back up to $55 today.
I mean, the market is a fickle thing.
Well, see, there's on top of the fact that they announced the Spider-Man thing, they also announced that they were getting some sort of a video game. I forget what game they were saying they were getting, or they bought some video game company or something. And the fact that they were buying a company should have bumped their price up, but it still fell 5% in 3 days. When you count that in, somebody in a boardroom somewhere is having a meeting. I'm willing to bet you money.
I was thinking that the reason... Okay, I have lots of thoughts on this, but first, I really think that Disney... I mean, they went to the table and asked for like a crazy high...
They asked for a 50-50 split.
Yeah, 50-50. And I really think that Disney... You know how, like, when you go into the negotiating table, like, let's say you and I are... You know, let's say I want to go in and I want $250 million. That's what I'm going to be happy with. But when I go in, I'm going to ask you for $400 million.
Right.
Because that's an insanely high number.
But that's not what Disney did. Disney went in and asked for $250 million and didn't back down.
Yeah. Well, so neither did Sony. Sony didn't even go back to the bargaining table. Like, Sony was like, okay, we're done. But here's what I think. And I think it's a horrible move. I mean, look, we had Spider-Man 1 was a pretty good movie. Of course, at the time, it was all we had.
Right.
Spider-Man 2, in my opinion, is still one of the best comic book movies ever made. Spider-Man 3 was a stinker and a half.
Right.
Amazing Spider-Man 1 had some redeeming qualities. It was a decent movie. Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was mediocre. And they had these ambitious plans, but they threw it together really quick. They were planning Sinister Six,
right,
Venom, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go ahead and tell you the only reason that I watched Venom at all is because despite everything everybody was saying, I still held out some glimmer of hope that movie was going to somehow, in some small way, connect to the MCU at large.
And it didn't.
And it didn't. The only reason I'm going to go see Venom 2 is because Woody Harrelson is going to be playing Carnage. That's the only reason.
I did not know that.
Yeah. He was in the post-credits scene.
See, I haven't seen Venom.
Sorry.
It's okay. We walked into this saying spoilers. That's cool. I'm going to have to check out Venom because I haven't seen it yet. I hadn't had the chance to see it, but, I mean, I like Tom Hardy as an actor. You know, he's good in pretty much everything I've seen him in.
Venom was good. For it not to be connected to the MCU, it was a hell of a good movie. But here's what happens. Let's say...
Is there anybody talking to this?
No.
Okay.
Kind of late, whatever. Here's what happens.
We at least have 5 people watching.
Let's say you go in and you go to a party, or you go to parties.
Right.
Every Friday night. You go to the same party, and they're serving like 18-year-old Scotch whiskey, $300 a bottle stuff. And you're going in there and you're enjoying that fine Scotch. After about 2.5 years of going to the same party every Friday night, they pull out some like
$5
$15 a bottle Texas Crown or some nasty, cheap liquor or some, MD 2020 or something. Right. And you're like, you know what? What the hell is this? We've been living the good life with the MCU ever since Civil War came out.
Right.
Tom Holland's made a great Spider-Man.
He is amazing as Spider-Man.
Marissa Tomei is the finest Aunt May
that's ever been cast.
Yeah. And and
even the supporting cast, even Ned and their MJ, I like all of them together. And so my question is Sony going to try to continue on with Tom Holland?
They'd have to continue the story, but I don't see how they're going to completely wipe. They made Nick Fury and Hogan and a lot of the the Tony Stark thing. Tony Stark was basically Uncle Ben in these movies.
Pretty much, yeah.
And they made those such a cornerstone of the Spider-Man mythos in this universe that I don't see how they're going to be able to do it without just completely rebooting again.
Yep.
And I don't see it.
And if they reboot, are they going to go with another actor to play Spider-Man?
Tom Holland's got 2 more movies left on his contract.
Oh yeah, that's right, he does.
So
there was somebody that said that when we get Deadpool in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that there needs to be a scene where Deadpool's at the house and Tobey Maguire walks through and Andrew Garfield walks through and Tom Holland walks through.
That would be funny. But I don't think they have the balls to do it.
Oh.
I think Ryan Reynolds has
the
balls
to do it.
But I don't think the execs are going to... They kind of give you that... In the Deadpool movies, they kind of give you that message like, oh, we're just doing whatever the hell we want. But somebody up high okayed all that crap. I don't care what they say.
So, but the thing of it is that the person who's paying for those movies is Ryan.
Ryan Reynolds, yeah.
He's the one paying for it all. So at the end of the day, it's whoever is spending the money.
Yeah.
So if he's the one spending the money, I'm pretty sure he could get on the phone with Tom and Toby and Andrew and be like, hey, can I borrow y'all for 10 minutes?
It was kind of like how he managed to get Brad Pitt for that brief cameo as Vanisher. Which, I'll go ahead and tell you, man, that the scene where X-Force is jumping out of the plane and all that crap, that little 5-minute clip is the greatest scene of any Fox movie of the last 5 years.
That and the whole Domino's powers being luck, and how do you do that cinematically? It just goes through that whole thing of her luck powers doing everything, and
she's missing every bullet and just happens to land in the right spot every time.
He's like, how would that even work cinematically?
But I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that. But I'll go ahead and tell you, I don't think it's over. I think negotiations are still happening behind closed doors.
Well, there was
they tend to negotiate in secret. Remember when the Sony email hacks happened, and we didn't even know that they were planning on letting Spider-Man be in Civil War, and then it was only because of those hacks. They had it under such tight, it was just under wraps.
Right.
Nobody knew. And then the hacks happened, and we're like, oh, holy crap! I really think there's stuff going on right now.
It's possible. Because there was rumor, there was people that were saying that they were hoping that they would get something by D23, and that there would be some announcement about from D23. Speaking of which, D23, have you seen all the crap that they've mentioned for Disney Plus?
Yes,
we're getting Moon Knight.
We're
getting Moon Knight.
I know.
We're getting She-Hulk.
I'm not really excited about Moon Knight. I've never been a big fan of the character. But of all those that they announced, I'm really, and this is going to sound weird, but I'm really, really excited for Miss Marvel.
See, I've not got that much knowledge on that character.
I've read her. I haven't read a whole lot. I've read her origin story,
mm-hmm.
and she was in the Ultimates.
Okay.
To a fairly good length, and she is a fun character. She's like the. I don't even want to use the analogy. You can see where I'm going with this. She's the Jubilee of that team.
See, I had somebody say that she would make a good replacement for Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
She will, and she's the wide-eyed never met another superhero that she didn't want an autograph. She's that type.
Right.
You know, she's the young kid who has the powers, and she's just, she wants to, she wants to fit in. And every time she sees like Captain America or somebody, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm such a fan of yours," and that kind of thing. And it is. She's pretty much the Spider-Man. She could very well take his place, and she's coming in at a very good time.
I'll have to look into that.
I'll go ahead and tell you, your birthday's in November too.
Yeah.
Right? Both of our birthdays are in November, and November 12th is going to be the debut of Disney Plus.
I'm already adding it to my Hulu.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be watching the hell out of that, man.
Mandalorian launches on the 12th. The trailer for that looked epic.
Yeah, see, I've not even seen the trailer for Mandalorian, and I was very,
you should check it out.
Aside from the Dark Ray stuff, I was very unimpressed with the newest.
Yeah,
Rise
the trailer
of
for
Skywalker.
Star Wars was not.
I mean, it was like 70% old footage.
Yep.
Of the
all the original trilogy and the original or the two trilogies.
It didn't get me pumped up like the first trailer did, with Palpatine cackling in the background at the end.
Well, you do hear his voice, though.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have the same effect now that you know that he's going to be in it.
But you also hear Vader breathing and just, it's...
Yeah, and I think all that could just be a red herring. Like, they're not going to... They probably won't even show up. Like, you might have, Palpatine's, like, voice talking to Rey or something, but I don't think we're actually going to...
Get him?
I mean, what the hell's a Force Ghost going to do? Hell, we might find out. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I know, we've been popping up down at Infinity Flux every couple of weeks, and I've seen, like, Marvel, is really pushing the Star Wars comics still.
No, the comics have been pretty good. Of course, the comics are all, like, the main Star Wars comic takes place, like, between episode 4 and 5. Like
6 and 7, you mean?
No.
Or
between 4 and 5. It
between
takes place between A New
Empire?
Hope and Empire.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that's the...
Oh, yeah, like the Darth Vader book.
Yeah, the Darth Vader book also takes place... Well, there's one Darth Vader book that takes place between Return of the Sith and New Hope, and then there's another one that takes place between A New Hope and Empire. Because the first 4 issues of that are where he sent Boba Fett out to find... And it crossed over with the main Star Wars book, and Boba Fett went out to find out who the TIE fighter pilot was that blew up the Death Star, because nobody knew his name.
Yeah.
And that's how, by the time Empire rolls around, Vader knows his name.
Yeah.
Because Boba Fett went and found out, and he came back and he said, he goes, I wasn't able to capture him, but I did find out his name was Skywalker. And Vader calls the Emperor and has a conversation with the Emperor, and the Emperor kind of sort of tells him, no, your kids died. Padme died, blah, blah, blah. And then he cuts off conversation with the Emperor, and he's like, I have a son. And it just gets all kinds of pissed off and angry at the Emperor because the Emperor's lied to him this whole time.
Yeah.
And so, but that series is pretty good. The Darth Vader series was epic while it was running.
That's one of my great regrets is I still haven't read that.
Oh, it's
because I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm not a massive fan of what they're currently doing right now, but I don't hate The Last Jedi like a lot of the internet at large does. And a lot of that, man, I think it's really, and I don't want to go off on my soapbox here, but I really think that a lot of this internet hate is it's just the fun thing to do. People are hating everything now. Yeah. People hate everything just because, I'm just a pissed off person and I want to hate everything. People hate that people hated Captain Marvel. In my opinion, Captain Marvel was
pretty decent movie.
It was a really good movie. I loved it.
I thought it was great.
People were pissed off about The Last Jedi. And aside from the very unnecessary Leia in space fake out death, I thought it was a great movie.
That was the only major problem I had with it. And the fact that that was the first movie they ever really talked about fuel and fuel being essential.
Yeah.
Because, in all the other movies, they were jumping all over the place without a problem, But now all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait, we need fuel. Okay. But neither here nor there. But you're talking about Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I think that somebody at the Marvel Studios was paying attention to one of my role plays. Because we were, like, there's a group of friends of mine and I that we do a Marvel role play online, right? And somebody wanted to play Captain Marvel, and we were talking about how to, how we were going to do her origin because this is like years before they'd even mentioned her being a character in the movies, and I was like, well, we'll use the Tesseract. Somehow she gets her powers from the Tesseract, and then the movie comes out and she gets her powers from the Tesseract.
Wow.
Pretty much. So I'm like, somebody's been reading my shit.
They, I mean, oh God, I don't even want to get on this subject, but here we go.
Where are we going?
You and I haven't sat down and done a comic book malarkey since I've gone off on Twitter hating on Comicsgate and all the.
No, I don't think
we don't really discuss any type of political anything on Untitled Nerd Network. But,
we try not to.
But the bullshit politics has creeped into our comics. And you have a lot of people that like Comicsgate. You familiar with them?
No, I've not heard that one.
Holy God. Well, they're kind of dying down a little bit because their big heyday. Here's what happened. Marvel went around and started doing a little bit of diversity, started hiring more women and everything, and
right.
There was a very prominent writer in Marvel, and I can't remember. I'd have to look up the article, but there was a very prominent female writer in Marvel that was, I think, maybe retiring or she was celebrating so many years or something. And all the women that worked for Marvel, writers and editors and stuff, all got together for milkshakes. They took a big group picture, everybody, hey, milkshakes, Marvel, da-da-da, all that, having a good time. Posted it online, and this group, Comicsgate, lost their shit and was extremely, they started posting a lot of sexist, derogatory things about the women. The word, pig, cow was thrown around.
Right.
Just your typical, when somebody can't come up with
your
a
typical
decent,
misogyny.
Yeah, anytime you can't come, it's always insulting the looks, insulting the age, or any kind of physical imperfections of the woman, or you only got there because of what you did to get there.
Yeah.
So that kicked it off, and the lady. I don't know if you know, I've been reading Man-Eaters religiously. It's like the Image comic it's basically about teenage girls that once they hit puberty, their periods turn them into like giant were-panthers.
Okay.
And they're uncontrollable. They kill their families, and so the government puts this like chemical in the public water that suppresses their menstruation and all this stuff, and it's written by a lady named Chelsea Kane. She's a New York Times best-selling author.
Right.
I mean, she's solid. She wrote Mockingbird for Marvel, and there was such an online blowback from the misogynist crowd. They were loud enough on social media that Marvel fired her.
What?
And in one of her last couple of issues, she, I don't know if you've seen the cover of Mockingbird. It's like Mockingbird number 12 or something. But it has Mockingbird on a beach standing there, and she's got the pink t-shirt on that says, "Ask me about my feminist agenda."
Oh, cool.
And it was like her, poking
the bear.
Yeah, and it pissed them off even more, and their numbers grew, because then it was like even people who don't like comic books but are part of that misogynist bullshit crowd, they began piling on. So they bullied her off of Twitter to the point where they were like doxing her. They were posting her home address, pictures of her house, pictures of like her 10-year-old daughter, where her daughter goes to school. I mean, they brought her family into it. She left Twitter, stayed gone for a couple of years, and then Image hired her on to write Man-Eaters. Man-Eaters is going good, and now there's another group on the extreme left who is pissed off because in this book about teenage adolescent girls, she's not giving representation to trans men. So now the other side, but not only that, it's just these political issues. People are getting it's becoming too much of a thing where people aren't allowed to enjoy their books anymore because people are just not happy. It's like I could get on there, and if you write, people are going to get pissed regardless. That's what I'm talking about. People are going to get angry, and we've got to quit making, like, I understand wanting diversity in comics. I love it. I'm a full-fledged supporter of it. But once you start making it a point to make books for girls, start making books for minorities, for women, and then you're getting pissed at that creator for not going far enough.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I really don't. It's getting to, like, it's literally gotten to the point where Chelsea Kane, they had to put Man-Eaters on like a 2-month hiatus in order for her to bring in, I think it's like some kind of a tester, not a tester, but like some kind of like, what do you call it? Like sensitivity reader or something.
Right.
Somebody from the outside who comes in and has to pore over every word of every panel and let the creator know, hey, this is sensitive enough. This is reaching out far enough. And I'm just like, people can't write content anymore because they're having to look over their shoulder for fear of pissing somebody off.
See, that's just messed up.
But Comicsgate is still running strong, and right now their big support is that dude. I don't know if I can't pronounce his last name, but his first name is Vic. He's the big...
Oh, Vic Mignon.
I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, the voiceover actor.
Yep, for Dragon Ball Z and...
That apparently has all the sexual harassment claims against him.
And they are going to support him. I mean, they would... I mean, I don't want to get too graphic, but they would support him if he was caught with his pants down in a closet with a 13-year-old girl. They would still support him. Just because that's what they do. And we had a convention that happened called Bubba Fest.
Right.
That happened, what was it, like in Nashville or Oak Ridge or something?
Last weekend?
Yeah, it was this past weekend. He was like one of the first guests that they invited. Despite...
Well, there's been several other conventions that have, like, said they're not going to bring him in.
Yeah.
And that's why he's suing people, because going to conventions is how he gets his money, and he's suing them for loss of income and stuff like that.
Yeah, a big whoop. Yeah. Like, I use the hashtag KickVic all the time. I mean, I don't care. I mean, I don't think an alleged, even alleged, I don't care if you're still under investigation, nothing's been proven. I think if you're under investigation for sexual misconduct, you have no business going to a comic convention where minors are present.
Right, until the investigation is cleared. And then if you're cleared, we'll bring you in.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of those things that I agree with, too. So, you're talking about people getting pissed and stuff like that. So, there's this YouTube guy that I follow named Nerdrotic. He does a whole bunch of comic book news and stuff. And he's talking about how he doesn't like the fact that Tom Holland is portraying such a young version of Spider-Man.
Okay.
And he's like, because it's Spider-Man, you know. And I was like, and so I was like, so I replied to him, I was like, Spider-Man for the majority of the comics was a teenager or a 20-something. The Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man is nothing, and he said that the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man is more like the Ultimate Spider-Man than the main 616 Spider-Man. I was like,
maybe up through like the 1978 or something.
Yeah. I was like, the MCU Spider-Man is nothing like the Ultimate Spider-Man, and to say that shows your lack of knowledge, of comic book knowledge.
Yeah.
And some guy replied to me. He was like, no, he's not. Peter's been a father in the comics as recently as 2015, 2018. And I was like, well, you can be a father in your 20s. Tell you what, I can prove it. In the Civil War comics, Peter says that he's been Spider-Man since he was 15 years old. Okay. In 2014, Volume 3 of Amazing Spider-Man #1, Peter's 28. It specifically says it in the book. So while Peter has 50 plus years of comics history behind him, due to Marvel's sliding scale of timeline, there's only been 13 years of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, and as for the baby that you're talking about, May, that story arc took place in the 90s. It was written out of continuity.
It was like 97.
It was actually 1996. It's like the daughter of Peter Parker, and Mary Jane Watson, was delivered in a New York hospital, and they made Mary Jane believe that the baby was stillborn.
Norman Osborn.
Norman took the child. That was an Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, number 418, December of 1996.
What? I thought it was Spider-Man number 75.
Nope. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, number 418.
Okay.
It should also be noted this time that Peter had no powers, and Ben was actually acting as Spider-Man. This was when Ben Reilly was running around as Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 75 is when Ben died,
right.
And that whole story wrapped up.
And I told him, I was like, you know, thank you for playing David, but your comic book knowledge is obviously lacking, and therefore class is now dismissed. It's people like that get on my nerves, that think just because they've watched these movies, they know comic book stuff. And I've got a friend of mine named Christian that if he was watching this, he would probably school me, because he like, when it comes to comic book knowledge, like you impress me with your ability to be like, this issue of this, then that he can do it with anything, not just X-Men and stuff like that. He can do it with anything. It's freaky.
It's just because I used to pour over the same half dozen magazines 10 times a day when I was like 10 to 15 years old. And it's like, you just, like, I could tell you the first appearance of like Gambit, Jubilee, Rogue, you know, just about any X-Men imaginable. And I mean, it's, it's crazy the knowledge you can have. But yeah, I don't know. You just, and it isn't just comics. The internet's full of people who love running their mouths, but have absolutely no clue what they're talking about.
You know,
and it's not just comic books.
Technically, people would say the same about us.
True. Yeah, I've done that a time or two.
We got anything else we want to run about? I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I mean, I was just sitting here bitching about Comicsgate.
So we'll call that a wrap, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man,
we're gonna be back next week, though, right? You want to try next week again, or do you want to do it?
Because I'm really wanting to talk about
the next issue.
Next issue.
So yeah, we'll call it a continuing series on the Powers House of X thing, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, but it's good to be able to do these live.
I like
it. Very much so, because it's... How long have we been talking?
About an hour and a half, or an hour and 15 minutes.
You've got to be kidding me.
It's 12:00.
Dear God,
10.
we have. We've gone over an hour. Feels like we've been going about 25 minutes.
Nah, we're good like that.
Yeah, I was thinking something else.
Did we mention the sponsors? We didn't mention the sponsors.
No, I mentioned about going to Infinity Flux.
Right. So Infinity Flux is one of our sponsors, and our local Satanus, is that?
Satanus.
Satanus.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't really done anything with the sponsors since like the start of the summer.
We should talk to Jason.
Yeah, definitely. We have to do like some kind of... We were actually just talking during the Mario Kart stream. I'm going to try to... Because Infinity Flux is really busy right now. You know, it's funny
They're building the pub.
Yeah, they ran into a lot of snags with the pub and stuff because, you know, it was supposed to open like the middle of April.
Yeah.
And here we are in August. I think they had like some zoning issues and stuff. It just, a few things, you know how construction and all that crap goes.
I definitely know how construction goes.
And
it's like you start doing something and you're just like, oh, this wiring is how old? And it has to be redone now? Okay, that sucks.
Because you start tearing out walls, the inspector comes over, sees something, it's like,
Yeah.
So...
Been there.
I'm hoping at some point we may get to do a broadcast from their new pub. It was called, the Hall of Heroes?
The Hall of Heroes.
Yeah, is what they were going to be calling it. Hoping, we can kind of get some of that going on.
We should get with them and see if we could do, like, a live, like, opening day thing, like,
I would like to, but God almighty, man, how busy is that going to be?
But see, that's just it. If we get with them ahead of time, they'll guarantee us a spot. We'll be broadcasting live from the grand opening.
And just hope and pray it's not a day I got to work.
Yeah, and then just go from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see everybody later. We're actually, I've still got a handful of books I got to read. History of the Marvel Universe #1. Silver Surfer #1. It's called The Prodigal Son. Hold on.
typically it would say 1 of 6 or something on there.
Yeah,
like
typically.
If it was a miniseries.
Oh, well, damn it.
What?
Silver Surfer, The Prodigal Son, #1, October 2019, published as a one-shot by Marvel Worldwide.
Okay, so it's just a one-shot. Okey-dokey.
Oh, this is what it says on the front. Peter David wrote it, which is cool because I interviewed Peter David last year.
Peter David's awesome.
Years and years ago, the youngest prince of a far-off space kingdom, Prodigal, landed in the Savage Land following a power struggle at home. After a brief adventure with Kazar and the Fantastic Four, Prodigal absconded with one of Mr. Fantastic's spaceships only to be ejected by an anti-theft protocol. Drifting through space, Prodigal reminisces on the escapade that led to his exile.
Okay.
So it's kind of a Fantastic Four tie-in.
Well, anything Silver Surfer is going to touch on Fantastic Four at some point.
Galactus going on.
I mean, it's
Beta Ray Bill.
Whoa, what?
No,
Really?
I'm joking.
I need to start picking up Guardians of the Galaxy because he's in that now.
I actually saw Beta Ray Bill in something else. Like they had that recent War of the Realms,
Right.
and then it seems like I was walking around and it wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy, it was something else. I was walking around in Infinity Flux last week and they had like him on the cover on a like a poster or something of some new series.
Well, I know he's going to be in the Asgardians, I think, or the Guardians of the Galaxy, one of the two.
I mean, they were thinking he was going to be in Ragnarok too. I wouldn't get your hopes up, Mark. As much as I hope for you. I mean, I think.
Look, I don't want to hear it. You have hopes about Jubilee being and stuff. Leave me alone.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm almost to the point now. I'll go ahead and tell you, if they don't at least tease Jubilee in the next 2 years for the MCU and X-Men, I'm just gonna be let down because they.
I mean, I've at least gotten his head on a statue in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean they had Jubilee a little bit in X-Men Apocalypse, and she's had some little just, throw a dog a bone cameo appearances in the older Fox movies, and she's seen a total of about 18 seconds of screen time, and then they had her in X-Men Apocalypse for a solid 8-9 minutes, and then they cut it all out. So I'm like, screw you, Fox. But I'm hoping, my main reason is I'm hoping that the MCU, their color palette and their look, I think she'll fit in a lot more as opposed to the darker Fox.
Definitely.
Fox tried to make their, X-Men into the Dark Justice League or something. But anyway.
And then DC came along and did the Dark Justice League.
They're like, oh, you want to be dark? We'll do dark.
We'll do be dark. All right.
All right. Everybody have a good rest of the evening. It's
Tuesday.
It's past
Tuesday
midnight. Now. Yeah, morning. Have a good morning. See y'all later. I'm Lonnie.
I'm Mark.
We are Untitled Nerd Network. This is Comic Book Malarkey.